Which pizza do you think is the best?
Although running a restaurant can be tough, one would expect that a good chef can at least make a decent-tasting pizza. Unfortunately for these chefs, even the basics were too difficult to achieve. So here are the top 10 times Gordon Ramsay was furious over a pizza.
Poo-poo platter. Come on.
The Moldy Tower of Pizza.
How can you eat that? If you knew they were off, why didn't you say?
Gordon has rarely been so unimpressed by a restaurant's pizza quality than that of Barefoot Bob's Beach Grill. A common issue on Kitchen Nightmares is the quality of the food being prepared and the cleanliness of the restaurant. You can get seriously ill if your food has not been properly cooked or prepared.
You don't taste that.
Even though Gordon didn't order the pizza during his routine taste test, he still managed to get his hands on some, and it wasn't a pretty sight. In the midst of looking through tons of frozen and expired food, he came across a stack of 25 moldy pizzas, all piled up together in a soaked, forgotten fridge, and it sent him into a furious spiral. Not the best first impression, let's just leave it at that. Ramsay estimated that the restaurant had wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars on spoiled food. With food standards this low, it's no wonder the restaurant was struggling. Despite Gordon's best efforts to help the restaurant, it eventually closed after going back to its original decor and menu.
It's grim.
Favorito del Nonna or Disgusto del Gordon?
This is disgusting.
When Gordon arrived at Anna Vincenzo's in Boca Raton, he was pleasantly surprised, not by the pizza, but by the decor of the restaurant. But you know what they say, never judge a book by its cover. The biggest issue with the restaurant wasn't its appearance, but the food itself. Add in a stubborn chef who doesn't take criticism, and you've got yourself a ticking time bomb of disaster. After eating some horrible appetizers and butting heads with the owner via the innocent waitress, Gordon finally tasted the alleged best pizza served at the restaurant, the Favorito del Nonna, and let's just say it wasn't love at first bite. Gordon described it as completely dry, bland, and boring, with a little touch of sogginess in the middle of the pizza.
That was bad.
Even stranger still, the pizza was topped with broccoli, one of the most universally hated vegetables. The owner replied with a friendly comment saying Ramsay didn't know anything about pizza because he was British.
Donkey!
Gordon attempted to turn this family restaurant around, but it was hopeless. The world's most bizarre pizza.
That's not a pizza. It'll taste terrible.
Yeah, but that's the idea. You make your own pie.
In an attempt to fuse two incredibly popular dishes of the 21st century, Sushi Co. in California tried to create a sushi pizza. The attempt was not exactly a flaming success, at least not according to Ramsay. The restaurant's specialty item was no better than their other food failures of frozen salmon and overnight soup. The waitress told Gordon that the dish was made of rice, mayo, cheese, salmon, and crab. Despite the waitress's warning, Gordon decided to order it anyway. Gordon took one bite of the dish and immediately spit it out and smashed his napkin on top of it to hide its hideousness. He then took a stroll down to the kitchen to express his discontent with the nefarious pizza. After reprimanding the owner and the chef for not wearing hairnets in the kitchen,
Nice hairnet. Yeah, why do I gotta be the lunch lady?
Gordon couldn't hold back, saying that the sushi pizza was a disgrace to both the pizza and the Japanese culture, potentially one of the harshest criticisms ever given on the show. Nonetheless, Ramsay did his best to help the owners out, but Sushi Co. ended up closing its doors. Too little, too late.
They just forgot to unlock the door, that's all.
Catastrophic Calzone.
Absolute disaster.
When visiting Pantaleone's restaurant in Denver, Colorado, they served Gordon a wide array of Italian cuisine. However, one of the most unappetizing items had to be the chef's calzone. Named after head chef Pete, Pete's calzone was easily one of the largest meals Gordon had ever been presented with. This calzone was practically an entire pizza folded in half. After some profanities were said about the looks of this overly stuffed calzone, Gordon took a bite and did not have anything nice to say about the taste either. With a mouthful of raw onions and ice-cold pepperoni, he declared it a hideous meal.
And you got no calzone. Wait a minute, wait!
Word got back to the kitchen, and Pete was less than joyful about the news. With a dish that big, the most important thing is to make sure the whole thing is cooked and hot. Crispy on the outside and soggy on the inside isn't exactly the most appetizing taste ever. The calzone is a classic pizzeria dish loved around the world. However, Pete's calzone at Pantaleone's ended up being a major disappointment in Gordon's eyes.
Disappointed!
Baked potato pizza pie.
You're pulling my plonker now, aren't you?
If a pizza arrives at the table and Gordon's immediate reaction is to say, "What is that?" then it doesn't bode well for the rest of the dinner experience. One of the strangest pizzas he had ever seen, the loaded baked potato pizza at J. Willie's in Indiana, did not set the bar super high right off the bat. Gordon was so shocked by the funny-looking pizza that he asked the priest who was eating at the next table to bless his food.
Just stay away from the 3-bean salad.
You're not the boss of me.
But needless to say, God wasn't on his side as he took his first and last bite of this loaded pizza. He compared the ranch dressing to wallpaper paste and sent it right back to where it came from. The layer of oil on the pizza did not impress Gordon either. Overall, a very disappointing pizza, especially if you were looking for that tangy marinara sauce. But no, instead you get this, wallpaper paste. Yum. It's always great when a restaurant wants to push the boundaries in terms of ingredients and recipe creativity. However, the quality has to meet the mark too. J. Willie's did not make it despite the recipe improvements and closed down a few months after Ramsay's visit.
Darling, crying's not fun.
Mama Maria's monster mess.
It's too greasy. That's just full of grease.
From the moment Ramsay stood outside of Mama Maria's Italian Ristorante in Brooklyn, he could already tell by the shabby appearance that this was going to be an interesting ride. The staff and the owner did not greet Gordon's arrival with a burst of excitement, but rather with a lot of awkward looks and snarky comments. Gordon became hopeful that the rude staff was the issue at this restaurant and not the actual food itself. He's proved wrong after he receives and tastes his frozen-looking meal, and doubly so after a quick stroll around the kitchen. With moldy desserts on his plate, dirt and dust around the restaurant, and an overly oily pizza, the unwelcoming staff was only the tip of the iceberg. After some time pondering, he realized that no one tasted the food before it was sent to him, which is a pivotal step in any chef's process. The employees were on the verge of losing their cool after Ramsay told them he had just had one of the most disgusting lunches ever, insulting their cooking methods.
I've just had one of the most disgusting lunches I've ever had.
Following a somewhat bustling rush hour, Gordon came to the rescue of the 55-year-old Italian restaurant and redesigned the entire menu, getting rid of anything frozen and coming up with new, exciting recipes. Thanks to Gordon's help, Mama Maria was able to turn itself around and no longer offers one of the greasiest pizzas Ramsay ever tasted.
Grainy, bland, and the potato was just dreadful.
Poor prosciutto pie.
People come here to try to set us up because they think it's funny, because they have a hard-on for Gordon Ramsay.
While you may have watched Gordon wreak havoc in disgusting kitchens filled with mold, bacteria, and rotting food, the issue at Amy's Baking Company had little to do with the kitchen's quality control and all to do with the actual food. Chaos and inedible pizza were on the menu of this now-closed restaurant. Although the owners were extremely confident in the crisp crust of their pizza, Gordon strongly disagreed when they served him the prosciutto pie. Not only was the crust nowhere near the standard that had been promised, but it was also completely undercooked.
Pizza's breathing!
And in some bites, just straight out inedible. Gordon went on to voice his remarks to Amy, one of the owners, but that was all in vain. She refused to accept his critique and claimed that to her, there was nothing wrong with her pizza, even though you could clearly see the half-cooked dough dangling in a pool of grease. In addition to the cooking time issue, Gordon also noted how oddly sweet the pizza tasted. The owners continued to defend their precious, unpalatable pizza, and finally, Gordon had enough. He told them the pizza was raw, soggy, wet, and too sweet, and after being yelled at, he walked out, leaving the owners to fend for themselves. If Gordon Ramsay tells you your pizza is bad, it might be a good idea to listen to him.
It's not going to work here. We stood up to Gordon Ramsay. We're going to stand up to the world.
Grocery store style.
Pizza man?
pizza, man. I got pizza here. Who wants pizza, man?
When Gordon arrived at Charlie's Italian Bistro, he fully expected to meet Charlie himself. But turned out the owner of the restaurant was a woman named Tatiana. When they served Gordon his food, he expressed how this was one of the worst Italian food experiences he had ever had. After he ate some raw toasted ravioli along with a weird-looking pink lasagna, he was hopeful that the pizza, an Italian staple, would redeem the menu. But sad to say, it was just as terrible as the rest of the food. He even compared it to a store-bought frozen pizza since it was so undercooked, cold, and of extremely bad quality. And funny enough, no one except Tatiana and the head chef Casimiro seemed to disagree with him.
Plonker.
His comparison wasn't so far off after all, as he discovered tons and tons of foods in the freezers, including the pizza doughs. No wonder they tasted like frozen pizzas. Gordon pointed out that more does not always mean better when it comes to pizza, a concept that didn't seem quite understood by the head chef. Gordon introduces his chef, Jonathan, who stepped in and helped maintain the restaurant's new standards after Gordon's exit, and the pizza became much more enjoyable after that.
Get in there. Get in there.
Yes.
There's my girl.
The Colossal, a pizza nightmare.
If food don't kill you, the service will.
The name, the Capri Restaurant, gave this monstrosity of a pizza was truly fitting, as customers knew this beast as the Colossal. This pizza was loaded to the brim with nearly every imaginable pizza topping. Yes, this sounds like it could be a fantastic pizza, loaded with flavor, but one look is enough to make your stomach turn, and this is exactly what happened with Gordon before he even took a bite. As he pushed the endless toppings around on top of the uncooked pizza dough, it started to look more like a grilled vegetable salad than an actual pizza. Just way too many ingredients on this pie. The waitress even told Ramsay the pizza had a bit of everything, minus anchovies.
Anchovies, you're so delicious. I love you more than all the other fishes.
Gordon wasn't impressed and called the pizza dreadful and hideous. The taller the pie, the harder they fall. After receiving some help from Gordon, the owners improved their restaurant and their reputation for a little while. But all good things must come to an end, and Capri closed its doors in 2019, and the world said goodbye to the Colossal, without too many regrets.
My pizza never hurt nobody.
Come again, sir?
The best and worst pizza in Denver.
Pineapple pizza.
Remember Pantaleones in Denver, Colorado? Well, they have the honor to be another contender on this list, and they've even earned the #1 spot. Score! Considering the calzone didn't set the bar very high for any other dish, it should come as no surprise that their pizza did not fare any better. It was covered in a heavy amount of grease from the unreasonable amount of cheese and sausage. Gordon couldn't believe his eyes.
Is it raw?
The pizza, which was supposed to be thin crust, was easily one of the largest Gordon had ever seen. When Gordon saw how gigantic, doughy, and oily the pizza was, he said that this was in no way the best in Denver, as the owner proudly claimed. Because of the chef's stubbornness to admit that his pizza was not good at all, Gordon conducted a taste test with 3 different pizzas with random different people on the street. Pete's Pizza shockingly came in last.
Surprise!
Finishing behind even a store-bought pizza. Ouch. But eventually, with Gordon's help, the restaurant got a little makeover and began to earn its Best Pizza in Denver title back. Power up and tap on one of our other great videos, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell to join our notification squad.